Bibury recently sent me some new versions of their multi-tools, and I love that when companies take the input that people have talked about and try to make some changes. Now, these are their keychain rescue multi-tools, or known as the BI2062B. This is the version from SwissTech, and you can see how there's some, almost looks like some diagrams, some equations on the outside. And very similarly, there's some almost like electrical circuits now on the outside of these tools. It looks sort of cool, gives a pattern to the scales. I don't mind it. I think it looks pretty good. That's not the only thing they've changed, updated the scales, given colors. There's a bigger change. But first of all, let's look at the tool set on these tools. So this is the current tool set on these. This comes with the knife blade, it comes with the package opener, and then on the other side of this package opener is actually a file. Then also you have the lanyard keychain attachment. Also, this set of tweezers, of course, your main emergency shears, these scissors right here, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And then you have a flat screwdriver and the Phillips screwdriver. So I think that's a little bit nicer everyday complement than you had previously on the other version of this tool. The previous version of this tool, there was a gut hook, there was a scalpel, there was a cutter with the file, the box opener with the file, and then this glass breaker, which I didn't mind with the scissor version because yes, that makes a little bit more sense if you want a purely rescue tool. But for more of an everyday carry tool, I definitely think this version with both the flat screwdriver and the Phillips screwdriver makes a lot more sense for people who want to carry this and then maybe carry the Cobra XS, the Knipex pliers with them, you know, a tool set, something like that. I think that does make more sense to add these screwdrivers in there. Unless you want a purely medical-based multi-tool, then this one actually does make some sense. You could argue for the scalpel and the seatbelt cutter and so forth. All right, so let's see how these scissors do. And they slice. There we go, slice right through there. Now I noticed if you have it clear at the bottom, all right, you just have to open the scissors right. They slice right through. There's not really an issue. You just have to make sure that you hold the scissors where they're supposed to be held. Let's slice through this strap. No real issue there. These are some pretty tough scissors, and I do like this multi-tool. I don't usually carry multi-tools with scissors rather than plier based, but I do think this is a lot more versatile tool now. While it's really cool that they have upgraded this scissor version, I think the bigger upgrade they need to make is with their plier version. Definitely that Phillips screwdriver needs to go in there at least. There needs to be some screwdrivers on the plier-based version. So I hope that will also get upgraded, and I will keep you up to date on that. Now let's do some measurements on this new tool. So when we weigh this new tool, it comes in 156 grams. Or when we change this over to ounces, it comes in at 5.5 ounces. So relatively speaking, it is even a little bit bigger, heavier than the Leatherman Skeletal. That doesn't really bother me. It still feels like a fairly compact tool. I don't think it's extremely heavy, and I do like what they're doing with it. Now, comparing the old and new tool, not only do you have the Phillips screwdriver and the flat screwdriver, that's sort of a demarcation, a difference between the two, but on the scale tools on the new version, you only have the tweezers, where on the older version, you had a slot for, I think they called it like an earwax scraper, which I don't know that a ton of people will miss, but just so you know, the older version did have one extra scale tool. So here are the specifications. It does come in a 3CR13, and then we've talked about the weight, and then it does come in 3 inches or 7.8 centimeters long, and then there is a width there as well. I believe that we've covered all these tools that it talks about. Now, the one thing that I always love on some of these smaller multi-tools is if they have a pocket clip. Now, Bibury so far has only put the pocket clip, I believe, on their plier-based version, and this sits in the slot where it has a little bit of a shorter tool. It's not the shortest slot, so there would be room, but they have opted instead for this keychain holder to go on your keychain. And that's no problem because you can get these pocket clips right here that fit on that little keychain slot. And I have gotten a whole bag of those. I can't remember if I bought it from AliExpress or Amazon. Maybe I did buy it from Amazon. I'm not really sure. But I got a ton of these, I think like 10 or so, because I thought I might be using these for mods. And they're very handy. And yeah, they work great. So where does this tool fit in? Well, if you are a huge fan of tools like the Leatherman Micra and some of those other tools, yes, this is probably, I think it's around double the size, the weight of the Leatherman Micra, but you have a lot beefier set of scissors. And if you're doing things where you use a tougher set of scissors all the time or need a tougher set, then I think this is your multi-tool. Now you have some screwdrivers in it. It's more an everyday, not as much of a specialty tool. And I think that's a huge upgrade. And I think a lot of you will be interested in this. So these tools come in at only $21, which I think is really, really good, considering things like the Saga PowerPint. Obviously, it has a lot more tools, but it does come, around $36 to $50, depending on where you look for it. And these only come in $21. Now, I know this version doesn't have pliers, but they do have the scissors, and it is pretty comparable in size to even like the Leatherman Juice, which I have right here. So a really nice pocketable size. I think it makes a great gift. And then again, if you are someone who is into scissor-based tools, I think this is a pretty good option.